There we
Got
go.
it. Okay.
Okay.
Unless you noticed that, Kelly, I would not
Yeah,
have.
thank you, Kelly. So Elena, what was your experience?
I lived in Reno for 25 years, and so we were on very strict. You could only water on certain days, usually 2 days during the week, and you had to water between certain times.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it was uh, early morning or late evening, and they had trucks going around, and they would ticket you if your water was on a different day or if it was on a different time than they wanted you to have water. I lived in Sacramento, and of course, California is becoming more of a drought area. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't as bad back then, but now it's pretty strict.
Mhm.
So was it year round or summertime, spring, fall, summer, whatever?
Well, it wasn't year round because starting in about October, November, it's late this year, we get snow. And the snow lasts until March or April. One year
Okay.
we had snow in July. I mean, the pass was closed. So, it really depends. But no, it was basically, yeah, the early fall, summer, and late spring.
Okay. So what kind of tips and tricks did you learn? Did you have vegetables or did you just have basic plantings?
I wasn't a master gardener then.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so, yeah, we tried vegetable gardening without much success because either it fried during the summer or it uh, would be covered by snow. Although I did have lettuce plants come up the following year, one year after they'd been covered in snow all winter. Um,
Wow.
basically, we had our lawn and that's all we watered basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's the problem.
Yeah. And now probably they're talking to people about eliminating lawns, I would guess, but
I didn't know anything about using native plants like I do now,
right.
and I don't even think we were using drip system back then. Um, but yeah, it was an experience.
Yeah. Now, how about you? Where did you live?
I lived in Seattle, if you can imagine, and in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
we had water restrictions because the water comes from the Cedar River watershed
And there was no
into
snow.
big reservoirs in the city of Seattle. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and we had like every other day, we were putting bricks in our toilets. We were
I remember that.
we were saving dishwater. We were saving bath water. It all
Mhm.
just really disgusts me now. But that was 40 years ago. So we had no idea back then where we would be today if
Yeah.
with climate change, because I don't even think climate change was coined yet in
If,
the early 80s.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think it
it
was.
was.
Was
Was
it?
it?
I worked on curriculum for climate change in 83.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And the Clean Water Act was in, like
yeah.
we talked on Saturday, was in 72 or 3, 72,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess. So they were, but that had to do, I thought, with coal mining on the East Coast and all kinds of different
Industrial yuck
industrial
going on again.
pollutants and stuff. So, and thank goodness a lot of that's been cleaned up, but there are some people in our political sphere that want to undo all that regulation. And I just cannot imagine going back to that. So
No.
we just let our lawns go brown, and that was kind of how we dealt with it. So, but
Yeah.
I just equate 40 years back, and Seattle was making an issue of it, and
Yeah.
so And
Yeah,
in,
I remember that too, and I'm kind of surprised they haven't recently, but maybe there's more snow in the mountains or something.
well, there hasn't
But
been every year,
no, no,
last
I
year or
know.
so. So
Um, and we had this big, huge rain barrel, um, but it would get full of algae in the summertime, so
like,
we'd have to clean it
Doesn't
out.
taste good, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
So
that went all the way down into Oregon too. It was the
did it? Yeah.
snowpack in the mountains
Yeah.
was just
mhm,
not
yeah.
there.
So if it happened then, it's going to happen again.
Worse.
And yeah, and are people any more prepared for it? I wonder about
I
that.
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I lived in Paulsbo, I started hearing that the aquifer, which is fed by the Olympics, below Bainbridge Island, was going dry.
Oh,
And
really?
I don't know that they restricted any building back then, but
Probably
all
not.
of those aquifers were filled totally from the snow in the Olympic Mountains and the lakes around around the mountains there, and there are not that many big ones like we have in
No.
Stevens Pass, Cochise, and Ketchilas. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a real interesting issue. But I was always shocked driving over Snoqualmie Pass where there was no water in Ketchilas, or the one that's right next to the highway, and
Hmm.
all you see are
Yeah.
stumps
Yeah.
and old broken down boats.
Hmm.
I never, as a kid, saw it that low.
Uh-uh.
So yeah, it's pretty scary. I
Yeah.
want to know
It
where
is.
John lived here in Grace Harbor County.
As what?
John?
I want to know where John was when he was
Yeah.
underwater
Oh,
restrictions.
I was living in Issaquah. I moved there in 1998 and left in 2015.
Oh wow.
And it was a combination of climate change and too many people moving to the area.
Yeah.
And they didn't have enough water for Issaquah got their water from the wells, which were drying up,
Mm,
and Cedar River, which is a Seattle
yeah.
course. And they
Can
were
you imagine what it's like now with how what's the volume of people that are moving there now?
Oh, it just
It's
exploded about that time, in fact.
yeah.
It never
Yeah.
been developed at all. There are
No.
probably houses now from Lake Sammamish all the way to Snoqualmie. I don't
Oh,
know. I haven't been over there for a while, but
I'm pretty sure there are.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, and all of them have lawns, or a
Yep.
lot of them do.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
the
the
magic word, really. We have got to stop this nonsense of lawns. We've just got to. It's caused so much pollution. This is why rain gardens started in Seattle, because everybody's runoff was going down into the water and absolutely wrecking Elliott Bay.
Yep.
yeah.
But now we have another reason. We should not be feeding our grass. It's not beneficial to us in any way unless you're a golfer.
Well, and maybe they need to learn to golf on
Sand.
And
sand or hard pan or something.
like
I don't know.
they do in
I
Scotland.
don't know.
They, they,
We keep waiting that technology is somehow going to get us out of this jam.
I don't think so.
I don't
It's
think so
not.
either.
No.
It's a
No.
finite resource,
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
using it up pretty
Yeah.
badly.
Definitely. So I don't know if anybody's there were a couple of drought advisory publications on the WSU site, and they were both quite interesting about water conservation in gardens and landscapes. And the other one was I didn't print it, but they were both addressing the issue of water conservation and how to minimize it in your gardens. And one of the interesting things that and you know this, Elena, water at night and water late at night and early in the morning. But also, one of the things said irrigate during a light rainfall to take advantage of the fact that the ground is already getting
The
rained
surface,
on.
surface.
Yeah, the absorption.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was an interesting point that they made, that, you know, because I always thought, well, that's kind of stupid. They're watering during the rain, but it makes sense now
Mhm.
that you would at least sprinkle or whatever.
So this is so that the water would penetrate more deeply into the soil? Was that their point?
Yeah, yeah. That, you know, it was kind of a combination, or you know, that teamed up for
Wouldn't evaporate so much into the
right.
atmosphere.
Yeah, yeah. So, but and the other thing that they said was, when if you have vegetable gardens, to plant the vegetable plants closer together so that they all benefit from each other. I mean, you see gardens where, you know, there's a plant and then there's another plant and then another plant, but they're saying plant them closer. I was kind of hoping Cindy would be on, because I'm trying to visualize what the garden looks like in Elma. And it seems like we do plant things close together.
Yeah, very. Having
Yeah.
bare ground in that garden in the raised beds is just doesn't happen much at all. It's always
Yeah.
something else going in. But
Yeah.
the French method has been around for a long, long time, and that is you don't have any bare soil. You plant so that the soil is always covered. And that I used to use that method down in Salem because we're dry. We're in a drought every summer, aren't we?
Mhm.
Well, maybe Kelly's not, but
No, no, even us. I mean, this Mediterranean climate that we all have, right, truly does mean that it gets dry, very dry. So we have to intensely irrigate, and especially this summer because of the heat, right? We had it,
yes,
I forget how long we went without rain, but I mean, all the roots of the native plants even, right, are so very shallow, right? So they're not ready for an
that's
extended
right.
drought of any period.
Mhm.
Yeah, our oak is about the only one, and it's not in your territory nor mine, actually. But
So yeah, so it is of concern for all of us, right? Certainly not now, but not this time of year. But I mean, um, uh, you know, irrigation, rainwater collection, right? All this is serious stuff coming from May through September.
Yeah, I'm looking out my window right now at some hemlock, and there's a lot of dead branches on it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
several of the hemlocks that I have on here.
well,
The Douglas firs seem to be okay so far. But
Are
not,
the branches dead, John, or
yeah,
are the needles dead? It's
well,
it's
combination of the two. They're
okay.
not putting out any new branches or needles.
Oh, okay. Because we've got a lot of needle drop off the pine trees out here. And of course, we don't water them. The ones around the edge of our property, we don't water those during the summertime.
Are those the short shore pines that?
Yeah, yeah.
Finest
They could
contortum.
probably handle a lot of that.
But they dropped a lot of needles, so I could probably collect them for mulch. So, in fact, when they do drop in part of my yard, I do mulch them in the garden. So, um, so one of the other factors that they said was, well, water slowly, um, and people that have big expanses of concrete or asphalt or whatever, it seems like we should be helping them or educating them somehow on making those surfaces permeable rather than impermeable. Hello, Scott. Um, and how do we do that? How do we go about doing that?
Well, you have to break up the cement and replace it with the kind of bricks that are in in the path going up to the gazebo that
Uh-huh.
are made of cement, or that, I don't know what you call that. But there's a hole in it to put
Oh
plants
yeah, that
in,
porous.
so
Yeah,
the rain runs right down and drains right in instead of running off down the hill. That's
right,
the
right.
idea. And I've used those permeable pavers, which are just plastic that you can plant grass in, and there again the water goes right down through that. So
Right, yeah. Well, and
yeah,
you can use gravel or
you could, yeah. I
bark.
saw a lot of people in Eugene who were replacing their driveways with the blocks, the permeable blocks of cement.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. But that's not um a landscaping initiative when you're building new construction because you're trying to put it in as quickly as possible or as
Well,
cheaply as possible.
I wonder when building permits are going to require that sort of stuff, because they're already requiring rain gardens in
Are
parts of
they?
Kitsap County, in
Some
parts of
places, yeah.
King County, and parts of Snohomish County, because
Oh,
there's so
really?
much water shoreline in all of those
Uh-huh.
counties. So they're trying what they can to do. I don't know if they've had any recent initiatives, but King County had a initiative, 10 years ago or so, where they were trying to get 12,000 rain gardens built. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you'll win a prize if you entered the contest, but I know that building permits now in Kitsap County is requiring rain gardens by Puget Sound, and also on the other side. So yeah, it's a really big deal, and I learned about all this in Kitsap County. So I really would like it to happen here more and more. So
Yeah. Well,
Well,
I know in Seattle they were there's parts of Seattle where they put swales.
in
Eh,
drainage ditches,
Yeah,
Greenwood
yeah.
up north, yeah.
And uh I know there's one where some friends of ours live in Ballard, and there's one just up the street from them. And I don't remember if the neighborhood is allowed to plant them or if the city planted them, but they did plant, some water, or they
Yeah.
they did plantings there that would absorb the water.
The city of Paulsbo even did that a little bit up in the hill where I lived,
Thank
in
you.
the Paulsbo area. They came in and
Good.
planted in the drainage ditches. So,
Yeah,
and they had it all really well posted, and they had signage as to what was in there, so people
yeah,
would come by and pick it or pull it out or whatever. So,
yeah. I wonder how much of that is cost effective for people that as they're building a new home or as they're re-landscaping, if that's something they consider. Um,
nice, wouldn't it? That's
yeah,
up to us to teach them how good that is to do.
yeah, you could be an advocate now.
Yeah, I am.
well, that's one thing about the Seattle, Tacoma, and Everett area is that the glaciers ended right about there, and it shoved all the dirt, and gravel, and everything off the topsoil,
Hmm.
Hmm.
or it's bedrock,
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah,
So you
false
get that
bottom.
soil, and the water doesn't drain into the soil; it goes down the rifts and creeks and rivers.
yeah, yeah.
We were told about that when trying to water a 8 acre lawn, and
Eight
it's hard.
acre
eight,
lawn?
8 acres,
Ooh.
I meant 8 acres.
Wow.
And,
What? Well,
well, I tried to get my boss to quit doing it in the summer, but oh no, we got to have a green lawn.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
nobody came
man.
and told him to quit watering though. But anyway, we had the
hmm.
hard soil underneath it. And like here in Aberdeen, all these houses, they shoved all the topsoil off, and now you get hard pan clay that's underneath it. I had to put my plants into raised beds in order to have them grow properly.
Well, there is a lot of clay soil in Aberdeen. I mean, if you look at those hills, like up on Think of Me Hill or whatever, that's just all clay.
Yeah, clay and rock,
So
sandstone.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
You know,
The
it
that
seems,
lower
it seems
parts of
to me,
Seattle and I'm not Seattle, Aberdeen and Hoquiam were mud flats. They're up to the base of the hill. My father said that they had a wooden road that ran between Aberdeen and Hoquiam, and during the storms, they would push that wooden road up against the mountain hills here. Then they'd have to take it and drag it back so use it again.
what
And,
kind of road?
huh?
What
It,
kind of
it was
road?
a wood, made of
it was
wood.
wood.
Like
Yeah,
planks, not
Thank,
logs?
no, no,
logs.
no logs. Well,
Well,
I don't know. He just said it was wood. My brother
well,
lived down in that but in the mud flats we call it,
Yeah.
and there was good soil for about 6 inches, and underneath it was black from the beds with no oxygen. So this is all the lower lands, and then downtown Aberdeen was sawdust. They filled the things full of sawdust as they
You
were
know,
cutting
yeah,
up the timber.
I found recently that a whole lot of Hoquiam is fill also. I didn't think it was, but a lot of it is here. But the problem that we're facing is bigger than individual people. And yet we are charged with helping individual people with their gardening. So trying to, what can we do there? I mean, we can't change the highways into permeable material, but that's got to happen. Lots of big things have got to happen. Where you can build or how big you can have a lot, probably in cities, is going to have to change. But how do we handle just the backyard gardener to help them deal with the changes that are coming? Do we tell them to stop and depend upon getting all your food from California, or what?
or or be smart
Or
about what they're planting.
yeah,
There are things that measures that people can do, like planting closer, using walls or fences or whatever as natural shade to shade their gardens. What else can you do? Install drip systems or filter hoses. Um, any other thoughts? What are you using as irrigation in the gardens down in your area, Kelly?
We'll actually just we'll hand water, right? We'll hand water just to make sure I'm targeting just the plants you want to water, right? And showing sufficient, and allowing some plants to go into stress, right? So that they're actually not so needy of water. We use a
Yeah.
lot of, I've used a lot of, I'll use drip irrigation, drip hose, a soaker hose, right? If there's a larger area. But nothing beats actually just, hand watering, although it's time consuming. By the way,
Yeah.
as long as we're chatting on this, then, so what I'm sharing is that I put the link to this in the chat. The Department of Ecology has a whole web page talking about rainwater collection. And what I found down at the bottom of that page regarding rainwater collection, there's actually a rainwater calculator. And
Oh.
this rainwater calculator brings up an Excel worksheet at which you can which you can go and put in your city. You can't excuse me, you have to toggle between the cities that are available to you, right?
mhm,
Aberdeen, it turns
here.
out, is one of the cities that's available. And what's interesting is that this Department of Ecology Excel calculator then calculates the amount of water you need to irrigate, how much water is available on an average precipitation basis, and then how much water you need to irrigate a lawn. And you put this, I just playing around, I put 1,000 square foot lawn, 1,000 square foot lawn, And this automatically kicks out that I'm going to need in Aberdeen almost 4,000 gallons, right, to irrigate, during
Wow.
the June, July. Now, mind you, what's staggering, by the way, this is Aberdeen. Let's go to someplace like Goldendale. Okay, I need 18 inches. I get 18 inches of rain. I'll need almost over 11,000 gallons
Or a lawn.
for a lawn, right? Let's
Yep.
go to Cooley. I'm going to get I'll need 20 inches. It's just fun to toggle through this, right? To see
Uh-huh.
where in Kennewick, for example, look at that. I'm gonna need 25,000 gallons of water.
Good.
25,000 to just to water 1,000 square foot lawn
Yeah.
over the course of a
How
year.
many rain barrels would you need to collect that much water?
See, and that's just it, because it goes on. Okay, put in the size of your cistern. I just put in 100 gallons, right?
Uh-huh.
And so that it shows you how much you're going to have to. So, Jude, this backs up the point you were making earlier, right? Is that regardless of where we're at, minimizing the lawn is going to free up all this water. All this water will be freed up, right, for other purposes, right?
Right.
If you just eliminate the lawn. And
I
again,
think
going all the way back to Aberdeen, right? It's just the good news about Aberdeen, of course, is that they're recommending that you only need to irrigate during June through September. But still, that's 4,000 gallons of
That's
water.
a
You're gonna,
lot of water.
and I don't know what the water rates are up in Aberdeen, Hoquiam, but it's you're paying for that.
Yeah, and they are going up. But the lawn is so embedded in the American psyche. It's like I gotta
It
have my
is.
car or my truck. I gotta have my lawn, and I gotta have my TV set, and I gotta carry. I don't know what's essential, but there are those essentials in our, it's just in our makeup. So it's an education process is going on. I think if you were to take any third grader and ask them, what do you think we should do with the lawn? They'd probably say plant corn or
Or
vegetables.
something. Yeah.
I think the kids are getting a lot in school about it. But if we could change that one thing, it would free up a lot of water, is for sure.
Well,
But
and that push for lawns didn't come into play until what, the 1950s, when the suburbs started developing. So, um, and
Europe, and
with
then
the,
it came to us.
Actually, since my grandfather came here in 1907, they were making lawns then.
Yeah.
but not huge lawns, do you think? Or well, I
Yeah,
guess
he
they
had
were
8
big
acres.
houses.
He had 8 acres. The cows
Wow.
ate most of it, but the rest
Well,
were, he had lawn around his yard. And by the way, he loved Scotch broom because it was cheap,
oh,
with beautiful flowers.
And it spread.
well, when was the lawnmower invented?
The ones that they had was those push ones with the rotary.
Yeah,
a rotary
yeah.
wheel. Yeah.
And today's kids, are they going to be able to afford a house?
Yeah.
No.
That's,
So,
yeah.
that might go by the wayside. I don't know. So,
Well,
anyway,
I think we've made some progress in our fairgrounds workshops about decreasing the lawn size just for this reason. And,
yeah.
and I was so impacted, but when we did a chapter each of Doug Tallamy's book um, about it being a dead ecosystem. And granted, I've got a little piece of eco lawn now, and I don't use pesticides. And there are a few people that say I just have a little bit, and I don't use pesticides or fertilizer or herbicides, and that's fine. But to get this out of the mainstay of how we manicure a residential area, and especially now with homeowners associations, because I faced that in Paulsbo. And all the new developments now in Paulsbo have to have drain water catch basins or stormwater uh, catch basins, and also green lawns. So
Hmm.
it's a tough one to break the habit. And so I
Yeah,
like
it is.
I
is
like Benjamin Boyd's talk about planting prairies in your front yard. You know, just talk to your homeowners association.
Well, people get into fights over that. You know, if somebody plants
My
a prairie,
going down because of your yard.
yeah, yeah.
A lot of
So, boy, but if more towns and cities impose regulations, um, the caveat with that, I suppose, would be that you, an existing homeowner, might get grandfathered, and they say, "Oh, well, you know, Val, you don't have to do this because you've got an established lawn," rather than saying, "Hey, you know, would you
start.
consider
Yeah, exactly.
changing this?" Yeah.
I think that's
So,
but that to me, that's the biggest to save water.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
like the list in the program priority toolkit book, all of the things they have listed here. Um, Design landscape adapted to local conditions. Yeah,
Hmm.
like right place, right plant. Soil health is under all of this. If
Yes.
good, mulched, rich, full of microorganism soil, it will hold more water. Um,
Right.
uh,
plant trees.
Plants that are adapted, yeah, our natives. Reduce areas of turf, mulch appropriately, maximize irrigation efficiency, and irrigate only if necessary. So, um, I mean, my yard is all about all of this, and I just finished a drip irrigation system that covers, let's see, 120 by 36. So that's what, 400 or 500 square feet of my yard, and they're easy to put in. So I am such a believer in all this stuff. So I'm not into draining water runoff into barrels, though, and that's what.
Well, um, yeah, you probably wouldn't have to, but there are probably places where people should be doing that.
Yeah,
You know, if you're living in California,
exactly.
or in in desert areas, um, their water resources are dwindling so fast that I would think any rainwater catchment would be important for them. And um, I'm sure that people out in the desert are probably using cisterns or um, rain barrel catchment systems of some sort to catch the water, to
Midge,
save the water.
Midge, just to check in, you're sharing your screen, right? So you're just sharing your screen, unless there was something you wanted to share. Or
Oh, are you seeing my PowerPoint?
now we're seeing. Okay, now you need, remember
Okay.
you can share the particular application. You can share your PowerPoint application. You don't have to share the screen.
Yeah, I don't want to share the entire screen.
So do a new share, and
Shut
select
this
the
one.
window. Select the window that is just having your PowerPoint application.
Wait a minute. Okay. Window.
You know, even if a person were not a gardener and they had a house that so much water falls on it every year and doesn't fall in beneath their basement, if they are catching that amount of water and letting it slowly sink into the soil somewhere in their yard, their gravel driveway, wherever, is a help
Mhm,
because it will contribute to the groundwater eventually,
mhm.
whether they're trying to grow fruit, food or not. So I think if we can have more capture of what falls, the rainfall, and get it into the ground, will be a help to people, whether they're a gardener or not. And if you do garden and you can catch enough from your roof to go to your vegetable garden, let's just say for just that vegetable gardening, that would be a big savings from the city's water system or wherever, or from the groundwater. Trying to
Yeah.
refeed the ground because the aquifers are disappearing. They're getting quite low, and they'll get worse every drop we bring out. But for right now, it seems to me that we need to let people know that these kinds of techniques are there, like what you've got on the screen now of mulching and building rich soil and all of that and reducing. These are things that we need to be trying to teach people. This is what we need to do. Yeah. Elena?
As our conversation, you were saying you didn't know what desert areas would do about water collection systems. And I just looked up Nevada, and what I read there was they're putting strict requirements or limitations on collecting water in Reno in particular, but in the whole, I mean, I looked in Reno and then I looked at the whole state of Nevada. In Reno, you can collect enough water um, to supply a vegetable garden for 4 people to feed yourself. But that is it.
That's
And
it.
in other places in Nevada, it's illegal to collect water because, like you said, the aquifers and the underlying water systems are so low that they won't let you collect water.
Wow. So,
Hmm.
and
So
the reason behind that is because they want all of the water to go into the groundwater, right?
to
Yeah.
ensure clean water for drinking and for other uses.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
Phoenix
Wow.
is having a huge problem.
What?
And Scott,
I think Phoenix is having a huge problem. They put a moratorium, I believe, on future building. Uh, Now they're trying to talk about desalinization. They're going to have to bring water in from the ocean to feed Phoenix. They're
Really?
either going to build a plant in Baja and pump fresh water, or they're going to build a plant in closer to Phoenix and pump seawater and then desalinize it. Either way, it's kind of an environmental mess.
yeah.
No kidding. Where are
And
they going
very
to put the
expensive.
salt?
Yeah.
Where are they going to put the things that they take out?
And yes, the salt, the original proposal was to dump the salt back in the ocean if they did it at Baja. And
Wow.
there was a bunch of stink about that because it's a big fishing area.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if they do it inland, they still have to deal with that.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So water is becoming quite the commodity.
So you're saying that's in Nevada?
That's in Arizona. I
Oh,
believe.
Arizona. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Phoenix area.
Yeah.
And that's been going on for some time.
They're going to stop.
Water right fights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
All wars in the future are going to be water wars.
Yeah.
They will.
Well,
Yeah.
I know when we were in Phoenix last year, they were tearing up the medians that were planted with grasses and stuff, with with lawns, and were putting in either drought tolerant, or they were just putting rocks, like decorative boulders and that kind of thing. So they were getting rid of what needed to be irrigated.
Mhm.
But that was in the Phoenix area. And I had read also that they're trying different turf for golf courses so that they're not as water dependent. So um, I don't think they were getting rid of their golf courses, but they were just applying, some kind of usage because it's expensive. I mean, water in the area is so expensive.
Dubai has golf courses, and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
making a mess, guys. We're making a big mess.
Right. Yeah. And they just go bigger and bigger, don't they? So,
But I think what we as master gardeners need to be doing are concentrating on these things that we can teach people, that can help them right now. And then in our political lives, we are lobbying our governments to do more as collective, like changing our highways. That would be a big thing, to repave all the highways if it were possible.
Yeah.
But then you've got the problem where you put the old stuff too. But big solutions which are absolutely needed not going to be done by individuals. It's going to have to be a big group effort. But we as gardeners, master gardeners, trying to help people with their local gardening, we can help them. We can help them in the next 10 or 15 years or 20 years. We can do that. And we should try.
Yeah. Well, and I think we set a good example, like at the demo garden with the drip irrigation systems and
Yeah, and we're planning to make a big change to get as much of the garden into native plants rather than just a beautiful rhododendron, though that's a native. Some of those are native, but
Yeah.
you understand what I mean. Just because it's
Right.
good looking and blooms when we want it to, it should no
Yeah.
longer be our criteria for what we do in our landscape.
Yeah.
Be different criteria. And so slowly do that.
Yeah.
People are helping.
And, I think people get distracted when they go to the hardware store, Home Depot, Walmart, nurseries, whatever, buy all the pretty things, all the pretty flowers that take excess resources. And I think the question was asked about container planting. And I know that there are people, and master gardeners that use containers for not only decorative purposes, but also vegetables. So that's another thing that we can address is how you're watering the containers and the soil that you put in them. And, you can mulch a container too. But one of the rule of thumb that I noticed was that even if the surface of the planter looks dry, put your fingers down into the soil and see how far down the moisture is before you just blanket water a pot. So that's another cautionary tale for people is that, watch how you're watering your containers. And again, water them early in the morning, late at night, when the air is cooler so that there isn't as much evaporation. I think we get spoiled around here by the mindset that we have more water than anybody else, but we really don't. I mean, it's
Not for a few months anyway.
yeah. So
I have to share that Jude found a pot in the demo garden that had only been watered on one side. It was amazing. There was about this much of the pot that looked halfway healthy, and the rest of it looked like cement. So run the hose all around your pots.
where was this poor pot?
I don't remember. It was somewhere near the blue shed, I think.
By the blue shed, yeah.
Oh gosh. How did that happen?
We didn't teach proper watering of pots in
Yeah.
that year of intern training.
Exactly. It's all your fault.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question about the native garden. Um in the garden, behind the gazebo, the trees and that. How does that get watered? Is there irrigation
That's-
up there?
There is a pipe at the top of the hill, and the first 2 years that we had planted natives, we watered those new plantings regularly to get them established.
Uh-huh.
We don't water them unless it's a new planting.
Right.
It's on its own.
Okay.
This past year, though, a water main broke, and so part of the
Oh, yeah.
garden did get a lot of water,
Yeah.
but that was not intentional.
Right.
So there are some things that don't make it, and you just have to say too bad and replace them with something that you know will make it
Mm-hmm.
to be on their own. But our summers are extremely dry, and so we need to move more toward native plants,
Yeah.
or those plants that are native to places like California or Italy. I mean, it's not that we have to be purists about being native, but those plants that are able already know how to live in this kind of a climate.
Right.
Dry
Yeah.
as heck in the summer and then wet.
Yeah. Like a
You know-
Mediterranean climate.
After all this rain we had, I went out and dug a hole for planting another plant, and it's bone dry still, the soil. Bone dry.
Really?
I mean, after
Wow.
the recent heavy rains we had,
Pardon? We had over 6 inches of rain in this month alone.
yeah, well, this is why forests are so important to us, having aquifers. They allow absorption of the water better than anything else we've ever invented.
And I'm forested. Most of my lot is forested, and it's all the duff and stuff that the trees drop. But the soil underneath is bone dry.
Yeah.
Wow.
And not
Well-
until sometime, I remember when I first bought this place, 2010, that it took about until late December for it to get wet enough to plant plants without having to water.
Elena?
I had an interesting discussion with Hugh Barrett when we were traveling back and forth for meetings and whatnot. And he said that if the soil gets dry enough, the water will bounce right off of it. It will not go into the
Right.
soil and uh, get its way down to farther than, an inch or so, even less than that. And so that's part of the problem with watering, relying on the rain to water your yard, because
Mm-hmm.
it may not saturate down into the soil if the ground has been too dry.
It just turns into hard pan, right?
Well, it just bounces
Oh,
right off and
yeah.
runs off. He was talking about erosion and things like that, and he says the water
Uh-huh.
just will run right off.
Huh.
So the fix for that is called organic matter.
Mhm.
More organic matter that's in the soil, the less that will occur.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to take the organic matter off on our lawns, don't we?
Yep.
Mhm.
Bag that stuff up and take it away.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Self-defeating, actually. But,
Mulching is important.
It's part of building a healthy soil, is what it is.
Is exactly. And so many beginning gardeners are the people who come to our workshops and to our clinics. And the beginning gardeners, what do they want? Want a lot of bloom real fast. We need to try, and they don't think about the soil at all. So we need to talk more and more about feed your soil so that you can have those beautiful plants. Yeah, to make it. but it's you see that even children are attracted to the flowers, right? And
Well, yeah.
yeah, but getting the soil healthy, and I think we've been trying really hard the last couple of years to do that. And of course, Val did a really good job for the public this year with her the way she's managing her new property, old property but new to Val, being changed totally.
which had never been worked on, I don't think, ever in
Yeah.
123
It's like
years.
getting a new place in a housing development almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm,
Well,
I'm, I'm not sure what hydrozoning is. Does that mean just use specific areas of your yard to plant
well,
specific things?
it's you plan to plant things in zones that, you know, like if you have plants that are drought tolerant, you plant those in a certain zone. You have
Oh, I
plants that
gotcha.
need more water in another zone.
Good.
So just that specific zone gets
Yeah.
more water than your drought tolerant. And I think one thing that we need to caution people about too is, you know, if the label says drought tolerant, you don't just stick it in the ground and think that it's not gonna, you know, it doesn't need water or whatever. Because, like Jude said, you do have to
Get,
watch them and cultivate them for a couple of years to make sure that they're established, and then um, you know, like our native plants, let them
Yeah.
do what
And
they
of course,
will.
that's because that soil was extremely disturbed, which is
Yeah.
what most of our landscape is too.
Right.
Out in
Right.
the forest, nature takes care of itself with the watering, but you have
Yeah.
to kind of coddle them along when you're putting them into a foreign territory,
Yeah. You do.
like the
You can't.
hillside at the fairgrounds.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just plunk them into a pot or a garden bed and think that,
Yeah.
you know,
Or
just
even the
carry on.
fact of digging the hole properly is an
Yeah.
important thing for a new gardener to know.
Yeah.
And and some of us who've been doing this all of our lives forget about some of those really elemental things. I can remember one summer when two interns decided they wanted to have a beautiful sort of like a quilt pattern in a lettuce bed, and they had it all planned. They had many different kinds of lettuces, and so they had it worked out really well, and they planted them all, and then nothing came up. And I asked them, how deep did you plant the seeds?
oh,
About this far.
oh, oh,
Ooh.
So that was our fault. We didn't teach them, those two anyway, about
Yeah.
the depth of a seed is planted is very important.
or teach them to read the package.
Yeah. I was just gonna say they need to read the package.
Exactly.
That's important too. We didn't teach that either. So we do forget a lot of really essential things, like making sure that hole is roughed up on the sides, not smooth like a piece of glass. Lots of different things that can help. So some practical gardening we need to, for the public,
Yeah.
we need to have
Yeah.
those workshops. And I think we've been trying to do that the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That Ray Archuleta, how do you say his last name?
Gilletta.
Yeah, he
Who?
has that rain
NR,
simulator.
NRCS guy.
Have
Oh,
you seen
yeah.
the rain simulator that he
Yes.
shows?
It's
Yeah,
amazing, isn't it?
yeah, on tilled and no tilled soil. Pretty
And
amazing.
what's the main reason for the slow draining? Is organic matter isn't dying because of being tilled so much. And the microorganisms are alive in that water, in that soil.
Right.
But that is really a very clear, descriptive showing of what happens.
Yeah, he has two for people who haven't seen it, he has two trays. One's filled with tilled soil, one's filled with not tilled soil. And he has a rain simulator that sprinkles water on it. and a jar underneath the tray and a jar out in front of the tray, and the trays are tipped. So the tilled soil, the water washes right down the surface and into the jar. The non-tilled soil permeates through the soil, and 90% of it ends up in the jar underneath the tray.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, really.
Perfect
difference.
demonstration for a plant clinic.
Very
Imagine all
simple.
the people looking at that.
Is
Yeah.
that a YouTube video by any chance, Scott?
Just yes, tap in his name, and there's several to pick from.
So what was his name again?
Ray Archuleta.
Archeleta, I think. Is that Archuleta?
Yeah.
Archeleta.
He's also
with-
quite an amusing speaker. So
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
he's with NRCS, so you can Google NRCS healthy soil, and his name is all over all of it.
Okay. Kelly has put on a link to something called hydrophobic soil. Has anybody looked at that?
Nope.
It's
Well, you made the comment earlier about, when Alina was talking with Hugh about what happens when water runs off, when soil gets so dry that the actual physics of the soil repel water.
yeah. It says hydrophobic soil occurs when a waxy residue builds up on the soil particles, resulting in it repelling water rather than absorbing. It is most common in sandy soils, dried out potting mix, and soils containing unrotted organic matter. You can identify it by watering. If water runs off or pools on the surface, you've got hydrophobic soil. And then it's got ways to fix it with wetting agents, soil improvements. With potted plants, you can put the pot in a tub of water so the water covers the entire pot. Garden bed design, it says flat garden beds are more likely to hold water than slope garden beds, giving pooled water a better chance to soak in. If you can't make your garden beds flat, then use furrows or trenches in your bed, which will slow the water and help focus the water to stay near your plants rather than running off. So those are good points.
If you use contours, of course, you can't
Right.
use furrows go from high to low.
Right. And this was something that they said is quite common in Australia. So probably a good thing to use when, like, if your pots dry out during the summertime, or if somebody comes to us and says, hey, my pots are all dried out and the water just runs through.
That's the other thing, because the soil will compact and pull away from the side of the pot, depending on
Right.
what kind of pot it is. And a lot of people water and it just goes down the sides of the soil
Right.
and out the bottom.
Yeah.
That was a hard lesson for my husband to learn, but he did learn it.
Did he?
You chew them out.
Yes, he's a very good waterer now. Yeah, perfect.
Ah. Okay.
I'll
Well,
loan him out if you want.
yeah. So, does he come with the tag? So yeah, that's a good article. Thank you, Kelly. I like that calculator too.
I
Now,
do.
what
I
is-
like that very much. If we can convert it from,
I think that calculator would be an excellent thing to start a workshop with.
wouldn't it?
Love your lawn. This is what you're facing.
Yeah, this is what happens. Yeah. We could, yeah, we could use that.
Or move to Aberdeen. Just kidding.
Use that as a demo at some point, when we're, I don't know.
Yeah.
When would be a good time to do
Well,
that?
we have to have a projector and a computer to get that
Right. Yeah.
screen where we could show that.
Yeah. Because that would be very informative to people.
Well, just even making the point though that that it's a non-zero cost, and even here in Pacific County, the cost of the recent refurbishment of the South Bend and Raymond wastewater and water processing facility means that residents of those two cities, and those are our largest municipalities here in the county, they're paying hundreds of dollars per month for their water use because of the cost of that wastewater treatment plant. So you can imagine that even here in Pacific County, right, with 90 plus inches of rain per year, right, water, the need to ration your water for whatever your garden is all about, it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It is really a big deal.
And it's just going to get more and more expensive.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have to give you an example of municipalities charging for water. So I just moved to Alma a year ago, so I have a full year of data. And I was very concerned when I did my rain garden because everything was new and I had to water it twice a day because it got so hot right away. I was really concerned that my water bill would just go off the chart. So I pay $75 a month, and there's a limit to my water use. I never went over it until my July, August bill when I was watering my rain garden, and it only went over $6.
Really?
So, and
Wow.
I use very little water personally in my day-to-day living, but you can see a family of four could probably all of them four take a shower. Like my neighbor tells me, his 13-year-old turns the shower on and then lays down like this, and it stays in the shower for an hour. And he was saying that they rarely go over that maximum level. So it didn't make me want to use more water, and I was really relieved that I didn't go over a lot. But it just tells me how municipalities are calculating water usage in their communities. So, and I know it was very much more expensive than that down in Ocean Shores. So, anyway, I thought that was pretty amazing.
Hmm. That is interesting. So, talking about water usage and your rain garden, Val, um, do you have native plants planted in there?
The whole base of it are native sedges and rushes. And I
Okay.
have native flowering plants on either end. So I'm hoping that next year I will have relatively little watering. But I think
Okay.
what I'm going to do is hook up a drip system in there too, so I can really target the watering. Because I use
Mm-hmm.
an overhead, I use the oscillator, and it just puts out way too much more water than what I need to
Okay.
use in that area. So I'm thinking real seriously because it was pretty easy installing that drip system. And then I can just target, uh, a couple of, because my little grasses are still really little, but they should all have like a 10 to 12-inch footprint. And
Uh-huh.
that should be solid in the bottom of that rain garden bed. So,
Oh, okay. Okay.
but I focused on natives just for the reason that because it gets really hot in Elma. I mean, I was shocked. So, yeah,
Have you lost anything, or are there
lost
ones that aren't
So I'm
aren't
very, very
thriving?
grateful for that, but I won't know until the spring. So,
Right.
and the
Right.
good thing about the sedges and rushes that I used, I got them at a native plant nursery when Puget Sound or when Sound Natives was still in business, and I got them all in 10-inch plugs, so they
Mm-hmm.
already had a really healthy 10-inch system already developed by the time that I put them in the ground. So I know that the roots so all I had to do was stuff the tube down and wiggle it around and then pop the plant out and it went right down in the hole and then just, just firmed the soil up. So I know
Okay.
all of those roots are healthy and they're already pretty mature roots. So
Okay. Okay. Huh.
that's what my hope is, and I think that'll happen. So
Okay. So I'm curious what everyone else is doing about watering plants and that. John, what do you use at your home?
What do I use? A hose.
But do you have a sprinkler system or do
No,
you
I don't have
just
any of that stuff. I have
okay.
some hoses that I had drip irrigation on my rhododendrons I have out in the woods, but that's it.
Okay. So you do some supplemental watering like
Oh yeah,
the
at least
roadies
once
and
a
that.
week, and when it's from May until through October.
Okay. What about your trees?
My trees, they're on
Yeah.
their own.
Okay.
Well, I water the young ones for a year by hand with a
Mhm.
garden hose that I drag out, and then the next year they're on their own.
Okay.
But then I have a lot of trees like eucalyptus and others that redwoods that don't need that much watering.
Yeah. Now I have a eucalyptus that wasn't doing very well this summer, so um I don't know why. Um Unless the voles or something got to the roots, I'm not sure. But yeah, other things, just the ones that are around the periphery of the yard, just they're on their own after after the first year.
Yeah.
So
We use a
Jude,
lot
what
of mulch.
about your garden?
Hmm?
What about your garden? How
You
do you
calling
water?
on me? I
Just
don't know who you're calling on.
oh, I said Jude. Do you water by hand
You
or
did call my name. I was just trying to ignore it.
oh?
Well, if I have a few annuals every year, they're in pots. They get watered.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
have a lovely moss garden, which I could let go dry, but so far I'm watering my quite small moss garden.
yeah.
I'm keeping it green. I'm going to have to give that up, probably.
Oh,
But everything
well,
else is on its own.
oh, okay, okay. How about does
Grass
anybody have?
looks horrible, but I don't like it anyway. So
Yeah.
if it dies, good.
Lou does most of the watering around the landscape areas. And since we put mulch around, cardboard and mulch around everything, it got to where it was being overwatered
yeah.
Yeah.
because there was so much moisture being held in the ground. It works really well.
Yeah, it does. It sure
So
does.
the cardboard, um,
Not just for the weed suppression,
right.
but then
Yeah.
about 3 inches of mulch, and it holds a lot of water.
Okay.
You pull that mulch away and you realize how much water is underneath there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
works
now,
great.
I mean, have you checked it lately to
Yeah,
see how much
yeah,
moisture
we've
is
just
there?
planted some stuff, so we can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
And what about deer and rabbits and
Well, we
and
have an 8-foot fence, so
oh, okay. Okay.
yeah,
So that doesn't
yeah,
hurt.
handcuffs for the rabbits.
Does that work? They're
Rabbit,
not deterred by anything. They're digging holes all over the place.
mhm.
Little buggers.
Do they ever get in your greenhouse, rabbits?
Uh, Mice once in a while, voles, but they don't seem to bother too much.
Oh, that's good.
The potatoes in a box outside, the voles came in and they'll eat
Really?
potatoes. Yeah, in a
Wow.
raised bed. Yeah, they're kind of a nuisance, but what do you do?
Yeah.
encourage more, yeah, birds of prey. So
Oh, my cat caught a big vole the other day. I think it was a vole.
They're not very big. They're
They're teeny.
Oh, well then it wasn't a vole.
little short tail,
It was something bigger with a pointy
maybe a
nose.
mole.
It didn't have
Black.
Could have been a
it
mole.
didn't
Moles
have
are
the
ugly.
it didn't have the feet, you know,
Ah.
the mole feet.
Hmm.
Was it kind of blackish colored?
It was gray.
Oh, okay.
Could be a rat.
Wasn't a rat.
Hmm.
No,
I mean, you didn't take a picture to try to
I didn't.
identify
I
it?
didn't take a
You need
picture.
to take a picture. Yeah.
I know. I stopped taking pictures because people would go, "Ew."
Can't you hold that camera steady?
So that one I
Kind of
didn't.
feeling.
But I mean, he catches anything, shrews, voles. He's caught a mole or two, but they're kind of secretive. So I think they're more at night. I don't know. But
Besides, the only thing the mole does is make a messy lawn. They don't eat plants. They're insectivores.
no, I know. They just make big holes.
Yeah.
So, or big mounds. So, what else, what other knowledge can we impart to our fellow master gardeners or um, the public or
There's one thing that the U.S. Department of Agriculture finally, after 10 years, have renewed their zoning. Where
I saw that.
And
Yeah.
and they said it's gotten really hot in those 10 years.
Wow.
So, and they recommend palm trees and figs, exotic oranges for growing in the Pacific Northwest now.
Yeah, right.
They do.
I haven't really studied their recommendation or their map yet. Have
Well,
you
Oregon
done?
State put in some input in it, and so did another outfit.
Has our
Okay.
zone gone up any at
Yes,
all from like
yep.
7 to
Aberdeen is
7.5
now
or something?
9A,
Oh
which
my
is
God.
a subtropical temperature. And I'm up at 250 feet above sea level, and mine's 8B, which I so far have not gotten below 19 degrees in my house
Hmm.
for winter. And
Gosh.
I lost some plants this last winter because it was a little bit cold. Both I planted the native plants outside, and I guess that they must not have been acclimated to it. And I had lost a couple of my native plants and some of my exotics.
Hmm.
So this year, but we'll see.
So what do you do with your exotics in the wintertime usually? Do you cover them with a
No, if they don't make it,
no?
they die.
Oh.
I have all kinds of members of the Devil Club family, Araucaria, and in fact, the guys up have the nursery, Far Reach Farms, and old Dan Hinckley
Yeah.
wring their hands in glee when I show up at their nurseries because I buy a lot of plants from them.
Here he comes again.
Yeah,
He must have lost a few.
yeah. Open up the bank account.
Yeah. So Kelly, have you had a chance to study that map, the new zoning map? Do you know where you've ended up?
Just here it is. It just I put the link in the chat,
Oh, thank
and
you.
it and then zoomed in a little bit to, you can put in a zip code, right? You know, and then you can zoom into your area, and you can see that
Yeah.
we're all pretty toasty here in those in those, you know, the I mean, right on the coast, we're probably more of that 8B or 8A, depending
Right.
upon the shading. But that to John's point, you know, 9A is certainly where the bulk of Grays Harbor is going to be.
That's just amazing.
Yes, Elma's supposed to be 8B, but it's a low 8B, and they've lost plants because it's not as warm as it is on the coast.
The by the way, the other link I put in the chat was a link to grow bags in their Amazon. So this goes back to other recommendations and comments for other folks. We've actually Bev and I have actually taken to actually using grow bags even in our raised beds. So we're really limiting the plant area that needs to be watered and needs to be fertilized, right? So so we're really reducing the amount of we're getting more plants per acre, if you will, just because of the density of the grow bags. But it's a more refined, certainly more less water use and more better pest prevention using these grow bags.
So do you bury the bags in the ground, or
No,
are they on top?
I'll set them on top once again to get
Okay.
even more height resistance against slugs and other critters.
Right, right. But okay, the grow bags are usually black, right? So they absorb more heat. So doesn't that draw?
So I get warmer soil. So I get warmer soils. And boy, that's a neat. Remember, we wear fleece all year round out here at the coast, right?
Well, I
So
know.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you know,
But I'm just wondering how much heat absorption there is. I mean, well, there's a lot,
well,
but
then just
doesn't it dry the
if
bag out?
that's well, let's let Val join in. But if that gets to be a problem, you always got shading, right? You just put a shade,
That's
put a shade on
true.
top.
That's
We used grow bags in all of our big our big perennial plants in our Paulsbo demo garden, and I'd never seen them before, but like on blueberry bushes and fruit bushes, and they were green, Midge,
yeah.
green grow bags, but they worked really well, and they used them in Eugene a lot. There are deciduous trees solidly on every single street in Eugene. And when people want to replace them, they use the grow bags on those too.
Oh,
So they
yeah. I've seen that in Seattle
and
too.
invite all the neighbors to help water. So
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we've used the grow bags for potatoes, and that works really well. So, um, and I know Marianne uses them in her greenhouse for potatoes and that, but I don't know that she plants them outside. So, um, we we all have a problem out here with our outdoor gardens getting compromised by by predators, shall we say, invaders,
Yeah.
four-legged kind. So, um, but yeah, that's an interesting concept, though. I think I might have to try that, Kelly. Put more grow bags in my veggie garden. So, so anything else that we can share with public or our fellow master gardeners? One of our um, interns really was interested in how to water like containers and that kind of thing. Um, and really, I think the sticking the hand in the pot and seeing how far down the moisture is probably the most reliable method, other than using a moisture meter to see if your pots need watering and not just watering them every single day out of habit.
I
It's
think,
probably the best thing.
and I think as much as we can convince people to stop overhead watering,
Yeah,
that will save tons of water just by doing that alone.
yeah. I liked Kelly's quote. Was it water the toes, not the nose? Isn't that what it was? Is that what it was, Kelly?
Yeah, that's an old adage. There's nothing new about that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know, but I picked it up from you, I think, to water the toes, not the nose.
By the way, the other, just to go all the way back to how we began the discussion here, that the importance of water. This New York Times had an article about Dubai just last week, right? And I put the link into the chat. And this is an issue, this is Las Vegas has an issue. We talked about Phoenix earlier in this call here. So, if, even us here, even we here need to pay attention to water and the water, the preciousness of water.
Yeah.
So I think that's, we need to keep on this message.
Yeah,
No,
maybe everybody should be forced to read the novel Dune and to see what the
Oh.
extreme aridity can do to you.
Yeah.
It was written by somebody from the Northwest, in fact. I think he was a
Yeah.
Seattleite.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that right?
Victor Herbert,
Huh.
yeah.
Well, I know when we were in Spain, in a lot of the places, the fountains were turned off. The rivers were really low, and they pointed out that they were in a drought, and therefore you weren't seeing the fancy fountains and that. So they were very conscious about conserving water. Of course, it rained like hell when we were there, but
That was
that was
just for
beside
you.
the fact. So,
Oh,
but
dear.
but and it was in big cities where they don't have much. People don't have yards really because they all live in apartments, but
Right.
they have a lot of green spaces with parks and squares and that kind of thing. And uh, they were very conscious of the fact that they had to conserve water. So they also get in Lisbon. This was an interesting thing. This is off subject, but if you recycle, or well, they had bins everywhere, like on the street ends of streets or whatever. These big bins for recycling, um, compost, and trash. And if you recycled, you got 10% off, I think it was 10% off of your tax bill. If you could prove that you recycled. So I thought that was a good incentive. Yeah. So it's a way to get people to conserve, right? So it's a good thing. Anyway, so I'm going to stop recording, and I can find it here. And I appreciate everybody being here